Last Sunday, we were introduced to two very different people in Scripture. One was known as a sinner in her community, and the other was a man named Simon. Now, Simon was a religious leader of his day, not Simon the disciple. He's a person of high standing in society with a whole lot of clout, and he liked it that way. Now, in Luke chapter 7, when their two worlds collided, Jesus points out the glaring difference between the two of them. Simon didn't show Jesus much affection, even the common courtesies of the day. But the sinful woman, on the other hand, her heart overflowed with love for Jesus to the place where I'd even call it extreme. And Jesus points out to Simon why this is happening and reveals his own heart to him in Luke chapter 7, verse 47. He says, "Therefore, I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he who has been forgiven little loves little. And maybe he who doesn't think he needs to be forgiven at all loves little." The issue is simply this. When we're reminded how much we've been forgiven, we know we don't deserve it, and then we live an overflowing life of love because we're reminded of God's love for us. The sinful woman was forgiven much, and it showed. Now, Simon, he wasn't perfect. He needed to be forgiven also, but it wasn't something that was in the forefront of his thoughts. So, again, if you sense that you are a bit off in your love for God and ultimately others, then go back to being reminded of how much God has done for you. Which brings me to what I want to make sure no one misses, and that is this, the simple clarion call that is for every follower of Jesus. What must be in front of you at all times, whether your past is a mess, whether you don't have much baggage from your past or regret, and everyone in between. The same expectation is for all of us. And Jesus makes that very clear. When he's asked, "Hey, Jesus, what's the greatest commandment of all?" And he says this in Mark chapter 12, verse 30. "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind, and all of your strength." In other words, with all that you are, the way you live, the way you work, the way you sacrifice, the way you play, you talk, shop, eat, create, share, worship, explore, imagine. Do all of that with God in mind first. You see, this is the beginning of loving God with all that you are. And again, if you have found that love has been misdirected in your life or diminished, go back to the beginning and reflect on the love and forgiveness God has poured into your life. And then live in all that you are, with all that you are, with Christ in mind. And you will find fulfillment and hope in ways that will confound you when you love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your mind, with all of your soul, and all of your strength.